On October 11, 1986, Columbus, Ohio once again became the epicenter of the bodybuilding world. Inside the Veterans Memorial Auditorium, all eyes were on the biggest event in the sport, the legendary Mr. Olympia. But that year wasn't just another competition, it was a milestone. The IFBB was celebrating its 22nd edition, bringing together the greatest athletes on the planet, each determined to prove they had the most impressive physique in the world. The atmosphere was electric, the crowd was roaring, and the stage carried the weight of history. That night, fans knew they were about to witness something special. The name Lee Haney was already becoming synonymous with perfection. At just 26 years old, the American wasn't stepping on stage just to compete. He was there to confirm a reign that would redefine the standards of the sport. There was also a sense of farewell and transformation in the air. That would be the final Mr. Olympia, organized by Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jim Lorimer, the duo that had completely changed how bodybuilding was promoted. Together, they turned competitions into true spectacles, blending entertainment, professionalism, and passion. And even though they were saying goodbye to the Olympia, they were already planting the seed for another giant to rise, the future Arnold Classic. Another remarkable milestone in 1986 was the financial leap of the event. For the first time ever, the total prize money passed the $100,000 mark, proof of the sport's growth and rising prestige. The champion would take home $55,000, a serious amount for the time, and a clear sign that bodybuilding was gaining global respect. The Columbus stage sent a powerful message. Bodybuilding was no longer a niche. It had become a worldwide spectacle. But the true value of that night went far beyond the money. Mr. Olympia in 1986 represented a turning point, the moment where a glorious past met a promising future. It was the farewell to the old-school pioneers and the birth of a new generation shaped by science, discipline, and aesthetics. Haney, with his balance of strength and grace, embodied that evolution perfectly. And so, on that emotional night, the audience witnessed the dawn of a new golden era. The lights dimmed, the physique shone under the spotlight, and history was written in sweat, dedication, and applause. Mr. Olympia in 1986 wasn't just a contest. It was the coronation of a sport that would never be the same again. At just 26, Lee Haney had already achieved what most athletes only dream of after decades of hard work. When he stepped on stage in 1986, everyone knew they were seeing something extraordinary. His body wasn't just massive, it was a masterpiece of proportion, balance, and elegance. Standing 5 feet 11 inches, about 1.80 meters, and weighing around 240 pounds, approximately 109 kilograms, Haney combined mass and aesthetics like no one else. He wasn't just strong, he was refined. From that blend of power and beauty came the phrase that defined his legacy: mass with class. During the competition, Haney simply dominated. No one came close to his level of refinement. Every pose was executed with near choreographic precision. His X-frame, that perfect silhouette with broad shoulders, a tight waist, and powerful legs, became his signature. The crowd erupted at every turn, and the judges didn't hesitate. A perfect score. He didn't just win. He made it look effortless, setting a new standard for everyone who would follow. That 1986 victory marked the official beginning of his dynasty. Haney was just starting an incredible streak of 8 consecutive titles, a record that would place him among the greatest of all time. His dominance wasn't just physical, it was mental. He understood the sport like few others, balancing intense training, strategic recovery, and spiritual focus. He was a complete champion, not just a body, but a mindset. Over the years, Haney would refine his physique even further, perfecting every detail and solidifying an era where visual perfection became the ultimate goal. The media couldn't ignore it. Magazines like Flex and Muscle and Fitness began to ask, can Haney surpass Arnold Schwarzenegger? It was an inevitable comparison. 2 charismatic champions, each with his own brand of greatness. Maybe the most remarkable thing about Lee Haney wasn't something you could measure in inches or pounds. It was his presence. When he stepped on stage, he carried that calm confidence of someone who knew exactly where he belonged. He didn't have to prove anything. Just standing under the lights was enough. While Haney dominated the top of the podium, a new name started capturing fans and media's attention: Rich Gaspari. At only 23 years old, he was already seen as the next big challenger to the throne. A former training partner of Haney, Gaspari brought a completely different energy, young, bold, and fueled by an almost obsessive determination. In 1986, after winning both the Los Angeles Pro and the Pro World Championship, he arrived at Mr. Olympia as a true sensation, carrying the heavy expectations of being the man who might finally break the champion streak. But what truly set Gaspari apart wasn't his size, it was his condition. His body looked like it had been carved with a scalpel. For the first time in bodybuilding history, the audience saw an athlete display striated glutes, something totally unheard of at the time. That visual breakthrough completely redefined the idea of extreme conditioning. While others focused on sheer size and proportion, Gaspari proved that definition and detail could be just as powerful a weapon in professional bodybuilding. Standing about 5 feet 7 inches, 1.70 meters, and weighing around 220 pounds, roughly 100 kilograms, he wasn't the tallest or widest man on stage, but he made up for every inch with muscle density and unshakable discipline. His physique looked like solid steel, and every flex showed the insane level of muscle control he had. He didn't just hit poses, he commanded them with intensity and precision. It was like every muscle told a story of effort and focus. Gaspari himself admitted he was up against athletes with superior genetics, like Haney or Mike Christian, who had naturally wide shoulders and narrow waists. But he never used that as an excuse. Instead, he turned his limitations into fuel. His work ethic became legendary, training to the edge, watching his diet like a scientist, and treating rest with the same seriousness as a heavy lift. That kind of commitment quickly turned him into an icon. Fans and critics alike saw in Gaspari the symbol of discipline-driven success, the athlete who made up for a lack of natural gifts with an indestructible mindset. Even finishing second, Gaspari left the 1986 Mr. Olympia with something more valuable than a trophy: the crowd's respect and recognition as the man who changed bodybuilding standards forever. Third place went to a name that radiated confidence and stage charisma: Mike Christian. At 30 years old, standing 6 feet 1 inch, about 1.85 meters, and weighing roughly 240 pounds, 109 kilograms, the American was a true powerhouse, famous for his massive upper body, impressive arms, and an almost cinematic presence. Christian had charisma, and the audience loved his energy. Still, he was fully aware of his flaws. He once admitted that if he had developed his legs better, Haney might have taken home fewer Sando trophies. That kind of self-awareness showed not only humility, but the wisdom of an athlete who understood how every detail could define who stood at the top. In fourth place stood a true veteran defying time itself: Albert Beckles, 48 years old, proving that age was just a number. Competing against men half his age, he brought a physique filled with refined details, dense muscles, peaked biceps, and a deeply etched back that reflected decades of discipline. Beckles embodied longevity in bodybuilding, inspiring everyone who believed the body's potential is nearly limitless when molded with dedication and intelligence. Right behind him, in fifth, was Barry DeMay, the Dutch Adonis. Standing 6 feet tall, 1.83 meters, and weighing about 230 pounds, 104 kilograms, DeMay won over the audience with his balanced physique and classic posing style, inspired by Greek sculpture. He represented the so-called European Golden Era, an aesthetic that valued proportion and elegance as much as sheer mass. His 1986 performance marked the beginning of a brilliant Olympia career. He'd be remembered as one of the most aesthetic athletes of his generation. Rounding out the top 6 was Germany's Peter Hensel, a newcomer who stole the show. At 30 years old, with a strong onstage presence, Hensel surprised both fans and judges by breaking into the elite on his very first appearance. It was the peak of his career, and, interestingly, also his defining moment. Though his time in the professional scene was short, that Olympia cemented his place among those who, for one bright instant, stood under the global spotlight of bodybuilding glory. The middle of the 1986 Mr. Olympia lineup painted a clear picture of a sport in transition. Between 7th and 10th place stood athletes who embodied both the spirit of the old guard and the promise of a new era rising fast. These men weren't just battling for rankings. They represented a clash of styles, philosophies, and generations. The Columbus stage showcased past and future side by side, and that contrast made every comparison even more fascinating for the fans watching history unfold. In 7th place, British bodybuilder Bertil Fox stood out for one simple reason: sheer visual impact. With colossal arms and traps, he was the kind of athlete who turned heads instantly. His brute strength was the stuff of legend, and his massive build made him a fan favorite among those who loved dense, aggressive physiques. Still, Fox lacked conditioning and balance, two key factors in modern judging. His physique was powerful but uneven, and that kept him off the podium. The 1986 Olympia made one thing clear: being big wasn't enough. Harmony mattered just as much. Right behind him came Ron Love, finishing 8th, a true model of consistency. The American competitor built an impressive career, entering 68 pro shows over 8 years, a rare achievement, even among the sport's most dedicated. Love was almost always solid, delivering good results, but rarely breaking into the upper tier of finalists. His physique was balanced and well-built, but he missed that elusive wow factor that separates the great from the legendary. Even so, his longevity and work ethic made him a symbol of perseverance in bodybuilding. In 9th place, John Turilli from Australia brought a physique that radiated classic symmetry and graceful posing. He represented the old-school style, where every line, angle, and transition was shaped like a living sculpture. However, he lacked the muscle volume needed to go toe-to-toe with the mass monsters of the new era. Still, his performance stood out for its elegance and flow, proving that bodybuilding's beauty goes far beyond raw size. 10th place went to Germany's Joseph Grolmus, a powerhouse known for his impressive muscle mass. Yet, he didn't have the same sharp definition as his closest rivals. His build was thick, strong, and full of potential, but the lack of razor-sharp cuts kept him out of the top spots. Even so, his presence completed the mosaic of that Olympia. Every athlete brought something unique, even if they didn't reach the summit. That middle tier of competitors represented much more than just rankings. They symbolized a sport in transition. It was where the last echoes of the 1970s generation met the first sparks of the future. The 1986 Mr. Olympia was also marked by emotional farewells, closing important chapters in bodybuilding history. Among those stepping off the stage for the last time were two icons, Tom Platz and Jusuf Wilkosh. By the way, we've got full videos about both here on the channel. They carried with them the admiration of an entire generation, symbols of a time when bodybuilding still balanced between the classical ideal and modern evolution. That competition became more than a contest. It turned into a celebration of the past and a preview of what was coming. Tom Platz, the legendary Golden Eagle, walked off the Olympia stage for the final time. Known for his almost theatrical intensity and unmatched dedication to training, Platz was pure passion personified. His name became immortal for one simple reason: those legendary legs. No one before or since has matched the combination of size, definition, and symmetry he built. A torn biceps had shifted the course of his career, but even without a Sando trophy, Platz became one of the most beloved and unforgettable competitors of all time. Jusuf Wilkosh, from Germany, also made his final Olympia appearance at 37. With his dense, powerful physique, he had been one of Europe's leading bodybuilders through the 1980s, earning high placings and inspiring a legion of fans. His retirement marked the end of a respected journey built on hard work, humility, and unmistakable stage presence. For many, Wilkosh represented the spirit of a true athlete, disciplined, grounded, and driven by love for the sport rather than trophies. Their absence left a void, but it also made room for a new generation to shine. Haney and Gaspari, who ruled the podium that year, embodied the start of a new era, one defined by science, extreme conditioning, and the pursuit of perfect symmetry. The 1986 Olympia was a dividing line. On one side stood the veterans who shaped the soul of classic bodybuilding. On the other, the young athletes ready to take the sport to an entirely new level. Even though Platz and Wilkosh stepped away from competition, their legacies stayed alive. Every brutal workout, every unforgettable pose, every behind-the-scenes sacrifice kept inspiring new generations. By the end of the night, when the lights at the Veterans Memorial Auditorium went down and the crowd was still cheering, the results of the 1986 Mr. Olympia were already etched into history. In first place, with $55,000 in prize money and the complete admiration of the audience, Lee Haney raised his third Sando trophy. Right behind him, Rich Gaspari earned $25,000 and firmly established himself as the top challenger to Haney's reign. Completing the podium, Mike Christian received $13,000 and the well-deserved recognition as one of the most charismatic athletes on stage. In fourth, Albert Beckles, at 48 years old, walked away with $9,000 and thunderous applause, living proof that age is no barrier to excellence. Fifth place went to Barry de May, the Dutch athlete who won over fans with his classic, graceful physique. He took home $6,000, but, more importantly, worldwide respect for representing aesthetic harmony in an era obsessed with sheer size. Sixth went to Peter Hensel, who earned $4,000 and enjoyed his one shining night on the Olympia stage. The 1986 Mr. Olympia is still remembered as the turning point that redefined the direction of bodybuilding. That was where the Haney era officially began, a time of total dominance built on technique, balance, and psychological control. Haney didn't just win. He set a new benchmark for excellence. His blend of mass, symmetry, and stage presence became the model every future champion would chase. At the same time, the event revealed a powerful contrast that changed how fans viewed the sport. On one side stood Haney, fluid, proportionate, and majestic. On the other, Rich Gaspari, the face of extreme conditioning. Gaspari's shredded look, with dry muscles, visible fibers, and the now famous striated glutes, ushered in a new visual era. From that moment on, athletes realized that size and shape alone weren't enough. Detail and surgical precision mattered just as much. This clash between art and science would go on to define modern bodybuilding. The Columbus, Ohio stage also became legendary in its own right. The same auditorium that crowned Haney would later give birth to another titan of the sport, the Arnold Classic, created by promoters Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jim Lorimer. That's why the 1986 Mr. Olympia is remembered not just for its results, but for what it represented. It marked the end of one era and the dawn of another, paving the way for a generation that saw the human body as the ultimate expression of discipline and art. And after reliving every detail of that legendary moment in bodybuilding, it's hard not to feel inspired, right? The 1986 Mr. Olympia was far more than a competition. It was the birth of a new age, driven by discipline, perseverance, and passion for the sport. If you've made it this far, it's because you share that same admiration for the great champions who built this history. That's why your support means so much. It helps us keep these stories alive. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. It really helps the channel reach more people who love classic bodybuilding and its legends. And if you want to follow all our upcoming episodes, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next stories we're about to drop. Want to go even further with us? Become a channel member. And of course, we want to hear from you. Drop a comment below. Which athlete impressed you the most at this Olympia? Was it Haney's perfect balance, Gaspari's insane definition, or Mike Christian's charisma? Your thoughts matter and might even show up in a future video. Thanks for watching.